Do not confuse this with treatment or mental health advice or direction. Nothing on this podcast is made to supplement or supersede the relationship and direction of your mental health caretakers. Although David Kozlowski is a licensed marriage and family therapist, he is not functioning as a certified mental health professional in this environment, but same applies to any professionals who may appear on the Light the Fight podcast.
What's up, everybody? We are Light the Fight. I'm David.
I'm Heidi.
And I don't know if this is going to be our shortest episode ever or our longest episode ever.
You never know.
It's really going to probably depend upon my health. So I'm coming to you just 4 hours ago, you guys. Something really non-traumatic happened to me. I started to get the makings of a man cold.
Which is really, really hard.
And there's my phone. See, did my phone reminder say, don't forget to get sympathy on the podcast and tell everybody that you don't feel good? So if you want to DM me all my good wishes and get wells and stuff like that, please do. That'd help me out.
Better.
No, today's not about me, but I am not feeling well. So if it shows up in any ways, just chalk it off as a man cold because, like I said, it's non-traumatic, but personally very traumatic. For the world, it's not traumatic. But we want to get started off today. We're really excited, not just for today's podcast. Well, I think are we even, I don't know if we may or may not be excited for today's podcast once you hear about it. Today's a tough one. I believe it's going to be really good, but also really tough. More for her.
Always for me.
But
I mean, that's just how it goes, right?
But luckily for Heidi, she has her team support person.
That's right. I've got my don't freak out hat on.
Yeah,
so.
You got your homie therapist, counselor friend. Got our producer Brandon, he's always good to go run us and get us good snacks if we need him. Free advertisement to Swig because it's in our camera right now. So Swig hooked us up tonight. Got some crumble cookies. And shout out to Swig and Crumble. If you're not from Utah, well, then you don't know about how amazing these two places are. They're definitely going to get you to diabetes faster.
Which, but, you know what, there's times.
But I think once they hear what this episode is about, I think everybody's going to cut us some slack. Like, we needed some sugar. Before we kick off the episode, what we're really excited about today. So I think it's most of our listeners know that getting in to see a therapist is not an easy thing to do. Or probably, let's put it this way. Most of our listeners have teenagers and kids. It's harder to get therapists for teenagers and older kids.
Well, the reality is we know this because we hear this from you guys.
Yeah.
So many of the comments, emails, direct messages, everything we get is help me find somebody, or can we get into David, or
the number one request is
super hard.
Yeah, the number one request is, can we get in to see David? And the reason why people ask that, I just want to let you guys know, is because when you're listening to a podcast, you really get to know someone. Someone sent us a direct message, someone going to school to be a therapist, and they said, I think every therapist should be forced to have their podcast and talk about what they know, so you can tell if they're full of crap, first of all, and if there's going to be a connection, because you can tell by someone's personality talking. I actually thought that was a great idea. I don't know if that's realistic, but point is that connection with teens and their therapists is it's a far greater importance than even an adult. When adults come to counseling, they may not want to be there, but they know they better go. They may lose their relationship, or they could lose a job. Maybe they're just threatened, right? Life is pointing all the arrows that they need help. And so adults are usually more willing to go. But with teenagers, as you can imagine, or even older kids, the willingness to go, it's usually not on their to-do list. Today I got to do my chores.
Either they're in trouble, and so they're being forced to go. Yeah. Somebody's mad at them. Something's, you said it earlier, damage control. Okay, something's happened. Now we have to deal with this.
Yeah, counseling and therapy, you bring up a good point, Heidi. Counseling and therapy is usually brought up along with a fight or an argument, and then people say, fine, it's so bad, they need to go to counseling, speaking about your kid or your teenager. And so these are all typical things that happen, but the reason why we're sharing all this detail with you is because our new sponsor of the podcast, I'm extremely excited. You guys have sent your DMs. You sent your emails. This is the number one request I get. Is David seeing new clients? Number 2 request I get. We don't live in your area, or we know David's not seeing new clients because I talk about it on the podcast sometimes. But can you refer to any clients who have his kind of personality and style, or specifically style of counseling, not necessarily personality? So the first one, obviously, I'm not seeing new clients. The second one, my style, my type of counseling is unique to me, but what a lot of people want me to give them is a referral to someone who is just like me. I can't do that, at least not at this point, because I haven't taught anyone my style, which I'm working on. But what I'm about to talk to you about, I think, is going to be a very good alternative for a lot of people out there. So without further ado, we're very happy and proud to be announcing our new sponsor. It's called teencounseling.com. So I'm just going to read some bullet points from them. They trust us. They give us permission to just freestyle and talk about this. But because this is not one of those things like, go down and buy this. If you're considering counseling for your teenager, parents out there, this isn't like going shopping for laundry detergent. You don't just pick one up, return if you don't like it. Okay, I want my money back. There's a lot that goes into this. So listen up really closely. So teencounseling.com, basically what they do is they connect 13 to 19-year-olds with a licensed professional counselor, and where they'll spend most of their time on their smartphone. So basically what this is this is digital e-therapy. This is counseling that is going to be through, and I know I'm going to say FaceTime so everybody understands what I'm talking about, where you can video chat, you can text, you can do phone calls. Okay. So,
and we always talk about, like, you're good at what you practice, right? So we know that most teenagers are already really good at communicating with people via their phones. So it's kind of cool.
And I'll get to.
Sorry.
No. I was just going to add some. I will take an hour. I don't want to take an hour doing this app, but let me just go through this so you guys. So when you first listen to this, you can go check them out at teencounseling.com. But the process starts by. So I interviewed these people. I've been on the phone with them. I've talked to them for an hour. I've Googled them. I've looked at their website, see the functionality, learn about their therapist, their whole entire process from start to finish. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be suggesting this. But the process starts by you simply filling out a questionnaire. That questionnaire kind of helps understand your relationship with your teenager, specific needs, stuff that's going on. Then you'll be matched up with a therapist in your network of specialists who are available to start communicating within 24 hours. So a lot of you people out there.
Which is great because,
exactly.
When you get that, okay, well, in 6 weeks.
You're not even getting a message from Light the Fight that crisis. David can't see your kid within a couple days, let alone being able to match up with someone 24 hours.
It's really cool.
Next thing, you'll have the opportunity to review their credentials, directly communicate with the counselor so you can make sure it's a good fit. I'm talking about you, the parent, okay? Then once you approve this counselor, the counselor and your teen begin communicating directly. Teen counseling is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. This is one thing I want to add on there. One of the things that a lot of therapists have an issue with is they're not a teenager that just grew up like me. Like, I'm just an actual teenager that's 45 years old. So for me to connect with teenagers is like the stupidest easy thing I've ever done in my life. Hey, what up, bro? Like, I am a teenager. So people are like, how do you do it? I'm like, how could I not do it? Like, I couldn't do this for adults.
It's truly Peter
I am
Pan
Keanu
right
Reeves, just the low budget film version of him, right? The low budget Keanu, like the Oxygen later after his career, baggy eyes. Point is, I'm not John Wick, whatever. Point is, yeah. So one thing that I started to think about this, I'm like, you guys, if a therapist isn't really great at the face-to-face connection, but they're really good at therapy, teenagers are all about getting what they want when they want it. So they have a lot more power and control when it's in their phone because it's their device. If you have to go to a lobby and sit there, wait there, you got to pick up your kid from their friend's house, bring him into a lobby. I'm not saying that this can't be done. I'm saying these are all hoops you have to jump through, and every single step of the way, every mile on the way to your therapist, you could lose your kid's interest. They may not even want to go. The convenience of this is what I'm really banking on will help the teenager feel like they have power in that relationship. And then with them, when I talk to the companies, one of the first things I ask them, like, what if the teen doesn't connect with them? What if the parent doesn't connect with them? They're allowed to switch, and you're assigned a new therapist almost immediately. So last thing I want to state is that this is far more, I hope I never need new clients because I'm like selling myself out. This is far less expensive than it is to see me. It's almost half the cost of seeing me. You pay monthly. You get a certain amount of sessions. Go to the website, teencounseling.com/LTF. Their official sponsor.
Stands for Light the Fight.
Yeah, Light the Fight. So for all of our Light the Fight listeners, you get a special 10% off your first month on teencounseling.com/Light the Fight.
Link will be in the description.
Yeah, and the link will be in the description on our webpage and also on our Instagram, correct?
And the podcast itself.
Oh, and the podcast itself. So you'll be able to click on this when you're actually on your podcast app. So last thing I want to say, with the whole entire teen thing, you guys, we will be posting probably next week. It'll be done. I have a list of all the therapists in our area that can specialize with teenagers, numbers, specialties. We're going to get that information out to you. I know I said I have by this week, but it's coming really soon. But with this teencounseling.com, you may not need to do this. You may not need to try internet therapy. You may not feel that this is something that could work. But what I'm telling you is, earlier this past week, I put up a post on our social media, and it just had a simple quote. And I want to share this quote with you. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I believe that if teencounseling.com and you start this relationship before there's major issues, your teenager will already have a working relationship with a professional counselor that's giving them helpful information. Then once difficult things come up, assuming that they may come up, challenges can happen, right? Then you already have this relationship. It's so hard when people come to me and they say, okay, we have a forest fire. I want you to put it all out by yourself. By the time we get out putting out the fire, people are so exhausted that they're not feeling hatred towards each other. They just feel happy that there's not that anger, and they stop coming. And then 6 months later, they come back. So with teencounseling.com, it's going to be affordable. It's going to be a way for you to keep up the natural progression of helping your teenager talk about their thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Then if they have really big issues or things that come up, they already have a safe place to talk about it, and you already have a relationship with the therapist. And like I said, it's a lot cheaper than me. But for traditional counseling, I still think if you can find a good counselor in your area, go see that counselor. But your counselors in your area may be a therapist on teencounseling.com. Like I could register and be a therapist on teencounseling.com. If you're in an area where there's not a lot of teen counselors, this gives you a chance to reach out to match up with people that do. If someone's in Chicago and they have a lot of experience working with a type of teen that you feel you're raising, but you're over here in Utah, man, you might be able to get the influence of someone that has that background with those teens, because they come from the same background that your teen's from, assuming you adopted someone. I'm just thinking of all these different scenarios. So teencounseling.com, 10% for all Light the Fight listeners. We'll be posting about it. Links will be in the podcast, and we want to hear from you guys. Fill it out, sign up, log in, and give us your feedback. We'd love to hear. We really want to know how this works out, and both good and bad feedback, because after talking with these people, I think there's a great partnership in the future. I want more people to get great help, and there's just not a lot of therapists out there that work with teens in your area or in any area for that matter. So we got to pull together the troops or strengthen numbers, and so let's get our youth the help that they need.
I want to just add one thing for those of you who are listening to us, and we're partnering up with these guys, and this is an ad. Obviously, we're talking about them. It's an advertisement. But here at Light the Fight, we're not like taking on advertisers. Just
this is our second one in a year and 4 months because of that.
I guess the point is that the purpose of this podcast is to get this information out. So we really like what we see and what we've learned from these guys. Your feedback to us will really help us. I think it will help them. I think that it's a lot of you that are listening are in these situations that we felt like there would be value in this information. So I guess I'm just throwing it into that because there's a lot of podcasts that I listen to that's like, okay, and it's not, it's an ad. So I guess what I'm saying is that, okay, you know what I'm saying.
Well, we're definitely not.
I just think this is freaking awesome. Yeah. Because if I told you how many DMs I get a day,
it's out of control
about this.
It's out of control.
I'm hyped. I love it when we can provide solutions. And
Yeah,
so-
and for all the therapists out there, this is not going to take away from your business. There's too many people out there that need help. They just need to find the right therapist, and I think teencounseling.com is the best chance of making that happen. And by the way, it's brought to you, I don't know if I mentioned at the very beginning, but it's brought to you by people from BetterHelp. If I didn't mention that before, BetterHelp.com is they're really the Coca-Cola of this industry. They're the ones for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years have been bringing online therapy to people that just can't get good therapy, or they're handicapped. They have some sort of issue. They work, they're traveling, they're not able to go and visit someone weekly in an office. So check them out, and we really want to hear your feedback.
Yeah.
And this will be the longest ad for them, but because it was the first one, I really want to lay it out there. And Heidi, I think you guys know what she's talking about. We're not going to have ads, I promise you guys, for things that we don't eat or need.
There we go.
We're not going to be giving you ads for stuff that Heidi and I are eating. Okay. So let's get into it. And we got about 30 seconds left. We're going to end this podcast. I'm just kidding. So
It really takes all the pressure off.
now it's
That's
going to
good.
go from happy, there's hope for your kids, to let's talk about some real stuff. So today is not a normal day, Heidi. Why don't you share with everybody what today is? Today and tomorrow. It's a twofer.
It is a twofer. And, you know, what today is the reason why we're here. Fundamentally, that's what today is. Today's, as we're recording this, today is July 9th of 2019. And on July 9th of 2015 was the day that Cory decided to end his life. And I really, I want our conversation today, even though there's a lot of emotions, and I want today to be
Not like it would have been the first year.
or the last 3 years, right?
And what she's meaning by that, like, to have a purpose of some sort, like to help.
I want to be able to tell you how things are different.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start out by telling you how they're the same. Number one, I think that it's really weird, and maybe some of you out there can relate to this. When I say this was 4 years ago, that's a long time. 4 years is
That's a high school career.
It's a college education.
It's
A high school career. Connor, who is my youngest, turned 12 on Sunday, and it's 1/3 his life. 4 years is a decent amount of time, and yet this incident is not in my rearview mirror. It doesn't feel like, 4 years ago, this is what happened. It feels like right now. It still feels like my reality. I don't know how to explain it. And it's a very frustrating thing to me, because I think that there's a lot of events that happen, and it's like, we did this. We went on this trip 3 years ago. I graduated from high school then. I had this baby, or whatever. A lot of events in your life happen, and then you move on, and you keep going. Either I'm not moving on, or it's coming with me, or I don't know. I was trying to think, like, how do I articulate this? And in that there's that cartoon. There's the cartoon, and I guess it's Winnie the Pooh. And Eeyore, like, no matter where he goes, there's just always the rain cloud, right? Like it just doesn't go away. And I was sitting in church last week thinking to myself, these people have to be so sick of me. Like, I was like, with my comment about relationships, or my comment about broadening perspectives, or I just
you don't have the regular copy and paste comments that everybody says at church?
feel like I need to apologize to the whole world that I am still just stuck in this thing. Because I feel like I'm like spinning my wheels is kind of what I feel. A little bit treadmillish, or hamster wheel, or what, whatever, Louisiana mud, or whatever it is. And I'm stating that because even though I feel stuck and like everybody's got to be sick of me and wishing that I would just move on or get over it or, whatever. The reality is that I have evolved a lot, and I still feel the burden and the pain and the sadness. And so it's weird because I think you think to yourself, okay, 4 years from now, 4 years later, I should maybe be at a different place. And so I guess this goes back to the and. I feel stuck. I feel like it's a Groundhog Day situation. But also there's a lot of ways that I've grown and changed and evolved, and I've seen that in my family. It's really necessary to open the eyes, take off the glasses, take off the hard hat, take off all the protective gear, and look and feel.
I just had an image because I know you've been on Instagram a few times before, right?
I use Instagram occasionally.
Recently, I just saw a friend of mine. He posted this thing on his GoPro. I don't know if it's a thing just for Instagram, but he's on his surfboard, and him in the picture is still, but the wave is moving all around him.
I've seen that. Uh-huh.
When you were talking, that's what I was envisioning, where it's like all this life is moving around. We're like, I'm still riding the same wave. I'm like right here. And it was like the wave as it barrels, like as it makes a tube. And it was like, it just, that image came to my mind. It's like, you're just like going, okay, it's still going. The wave's still coming, but I'm just still in the same spot. Even though I want to hear you talk more about like how much it's the exact same, but how much it's completely changed. Before the podcast, if it's okay if we jump in with this right now and, talk about whatever. Before the podcast started, we started talking about who you are for your youngest son, Connor, right now. And could you have imagined before Cory had passed that version of Heidi trying to mother this young man?
I mean, I was 100% not equipped.
Yeah, her hat would have, I'm covering up on the YouTube right here.
It just
says the don't part just says freak out. That would have been her mantra. She would have had like freak out bracelets. When in doubt, freak out. Go.
It's so easy. And I'm picking my words carefully. And I'm going to say this. There's no way that I could sit here, have this conversation, learn the things that I learned without what I had to experience with Cory in the way that I experienced that. We always say a prayer before we start the podcast. And it was my turn to say the prayer. And like I tell Heavenly Father every single day, I do not feel grateful to have lost Cory. But I'm so thankful for what Cory has taught me, because I know that nobody else in no other way could have affected me and required so much of me, and will continue to do so, because it's a process. It doesn't start or stop. I think it just keeps on going. And
a big part of what you learned is that Connor has so much of the similarities and feelings and personality that Cory did. It's like, this is your second opportunity in a lot of ways. Lack of better wording,
right.
but you get what I'm saying? Because they're so similar in a lot of ways with their personal thoughts and feelings. You now know how to get those out of Connor instead of him having to sit with it.
Well, and, I've had a couple experiences where, Connor has learned how to talk about where he's at.
He's even helped you a couple times.
Yeah,
talk about where you're at.
Yeah, he has, and he gives me that pass, like, Mom, it's okay. Like, kids are just so smart. They just watch and they just learn. And as I have worked really hard to help Connor to feel safe or to talk to me or to and what I mean is, and we've talked about this on the podcast, that Connor, and if he was in here, he would tell you the same thing. He just turned 12, and he has had and continues to, at times, a lot of suicidal ideation. 4 years ago, I didn't even know what that meant. Those big words.
Like suicide, ideation, that
what
sounds
does
weird.
That mean,
what is that?
right?
Yeah.
And if anybody at any time 4 years ago would have said, I just would be better off dead. I just want to kill myself. I just want to be done. I just hate my life. I just hate everything. I would have been like, no, we don't talk like that. We don't talk like that. Just shut that down. Stop it. Let's change the subject. Let's jump on the trampoline.
Let's call the bishop, who's a dentist. He'll know what to do.
You would, and now when that happens, it's like, stop, sit, listen.
Slow everything down. Slow everything down. Let's give this a minute.
And so, ironically, as I came here with this list of things that I wanted to talk about, how things are different. And this right here is a really good number one. Slow it down. When there's a crisis, when something has gone wrong, when somebody's upset, slow it down, put it into park, and then listen. And when I say listen, I mean don't lecture. Really hard lesson for me. And
so they have different meanings, listening and lecture?
It's really two different things, because sometimes people listen and then they just
I have to listen to know how to lecture.
You ask me the question and then I will lecture you.
Yeah.
This is the kind of listening that doesn't have a lecture on the end. It just has like a hug on the end. This is a big difference for me because I love to lecture. And I am smart and I know what to say.
Nothing makes anyone feel better for you to tell them how amazing and smart you are. I know. I experience this all the time. People love it when I do that. But think about how huge. So it's so simple for you to say right now, but at those moments when you're stressed and worried about your kids, this is before Cory passed, everything in your world seemed to hang on that moment. Like that moment was something that was so important that it had to be addressed and dealt with at that moment. And now what you're saying is, tranquilo, tranquilo, tranquilo. I know you speak Spanish, right?
I know that one word. No, but here's what happens to me here's what would happen to me. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. So I've had this happen again. I think we even confessed it recently. But like somebody throws something at you, your kid, your spouse, somebody that you love, that you have a relationship with, they throw something at you, and then you, like the card catalog in your brain. Oh yeah, I'm gonna bring that up. Oh yeah, I'm gonna flip that out. Oh,
July 2099.
Oh yeah, this is a great quote. Oh, and that one time. Oh yeah, and you just pull out like all of your materials. You just okay, great. Go wash up for dinner. Let's do this. Like I have really changed, and that's a humbling, and it's also a tool to stop.
Because the change wasn't always willing.
No, but I didn't even know. I mean, I honestly just thought it was my job.
Yeah.
I thought it was Just doing a good job.
Yeah.
Kids hate it.
I know. That's right.
Also, husbands hate it.
Because you thought in order to run a successful household, someone's got to toe the line. Someone's got to draw that line in the sand and just, you got to push that envelope. You know what I mean? And turns out that there's other ways.
So that's probably one way that things have changed a lot.
You allow things, you slow some things down, you give other things time to unravel, and you're not reactive. You're sitting there in the pocket trying to allow, whether, like, for example, Connor, trying to allow him to go through what he's going through. But at the same time, you're modeling for him, because you just mentioned that last night you had a moment and your kids were able to be there for you.
Okay, so let me just paint this picture
I'm
for
saying
you.
it's two positives. It makes you feel better, and you're modeling for your kids how to do it for you when you're struggling, and that allows you to struggle. See, the old Heidi wouldn't have done that in front of her kids, correct?
No,
I mean, not like that. Not in front, especially in front of one of them.
It would have manifested in anger.
Yes.
It would never have manifested.
It would have manifested in
I really
stabbing,
need help.
balls,
It would have manifested.
burning wet towels. I don't know how anyone could burn wet towels, but I think she threatened her kids. I'm going to burn all the towels. Like, Mom, they're wet. What are you talking about? Well, when they dry, I'll burn them. Heidi's slow with the comebacks when she's mad.
Yes.
You know? But you didn't do that.
So last night, here's the picture. Connor's birthday was Sunday. So yesterday, friend party.
Exciting for him to have a birthday 2 days before his brother passed away, right?
I know.
And I'm saying that, obviously, it's hard
rough.
for him, you know, yeah.
It's rough because there's me trying to, like, hold it together and keep all the things floating, and let's not make this about all the feelings I'm actually, you know, like, it's hard. It's hard for Connor.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm doing all the things, and we actually had a great time until like the party was over. And I sat down in my bed, and it just, like, I started feeling it. And then next thing I know, like, my two oldest kids, they're, like, detecting. They're like, burr, burr, you know, whatever that is that you do. That one, they're like, Mom is not acting normal.
There's a disturbance in the force.
You know, and
we may not get dinner. Go see what's wrong.
And then they're coming in, and then they're, like, heat checking. Like, they're trying to see what's
they're
what's
poking
wrong.
and prodding.
They're worried.
Yeah.
You know, they know that any minute I could just shatter. And I tried to hold it together. And I just couldn't. So then I moved from the open areas into the confined areas of the bathroom. That's where we cry.
More private, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, you know, there's not, like, chairs and tables in there, so you got to sit on the floor in the bathroom, which is really alarming to kids when they see their mom crying on the bathroom floor. You know, like that thing.
Yeah. They haven't gotten to the college years. We're friends, bad breakups, late nights. Yeah, there's a lot of tears in those situations.
Anyway,
but yeah.
So I'm sitting
They're
in
not used to
there
that.
crying. I got a whole box of tissue, and Quincy comes in, and, you know, bless her for listening to the podcast or listening to us talk.
She uses your tools on you, huh?
She sits down and she's like, Mom, I'm going to make a statement. You know, and then I just have to laugh, right?
Yeah.
And then she just uses all the things on me that I've been using on her, and they work.
Even though you know it's coming, it still feels good. Give a couple examples of the statements.
So she says, I'm glad that you're willing to share these feelings with me.
And you cried. That was the sweetest thing my daughter ever said to me.
I didn't invite you to come in here. You know, I'm like, still, like, I even cry by myself.
But it was so sweet that she said it like that. Though it's like,
and then she says, you know, I'm going to make one more statement. This one's a little overused, but I'm going to use it anyway. Because when you're ready, I'm here to listen. And mind you, this is the statement that I use on her all the time.
and it works. It just takes a little while sometimes.
And even when I know that I'm being statemented, you know, it took me a few minutes, and then I just let it out. So incidentally, also at the same time, Quincy's here. She's sitting by me. She's close to the fire. Colton's sitting on the other side of the bathroom. Colton does not like to see me cry. He'll admit it. He doesn't like to see anyone cry. But he didn't leave. He didn't make statements. He's a little bit of a shamer, if I'm being honest. But
he didn't huff and puff. He didn't shame.
No,
he wasn't smart
sat
aleck.
there.
Yeah.
He sat there. And then, so we're all sitting in the bathroom. I'm crying. And Connor comes in. He's been playing. He's sweating his brains out. And he stops. And he looks around with his, and
he's like, something's going on. What I walk into.
And he goes, Mom, it's all right. Just let it out.
11 years old.
12.
Oh, 12. Okay, 12. It's right. He just turned 12. Yeah. And he's throwing down nuggets of just sound wisdom from Mom. He's like, come on, Mom.
Gotta let it out.
Just let it all out. When you heard that, what'd you think?
I just was like, okay, things are different.
Well, think about this.
Things
this is really the first time
different.
in this 4 years, like, they showed up and they were supporting you. This is a rare occasion. All of them were in their own way. And you were able to just sit there and go, if you're going to model for your kids to be open, to be vulnerable, do those things, well, then guess what? You better do it too. You can't just tell them to do it all the time.
I could have prevented myself to be bawling my eyes out. I would have. I did not like being there.
No,
I did not like
and
the conversation.
And
I was amazed.
It worked really well.
I was amazed. And then you know what we did, you guys? We had s'mores for dinner.
There you go. Win-win.
And now I'm eating sugar cookies. So I'm on a sugar high right now. But
well, you know what? If it makes you feel better, one of the connections I have with Cory is Chicken McNuggets because he's working at McDonald's at that particular time. He and I had a lot of Chicken McNugget stories. Not always good ones, but they're funny. And so I'll go get some Chicken McNuggets tomorrow.
Well, actually,
so this is the week of we eat whatever Cory.
This is what you have to get when you go.
Okay, tell me.
You have to get the
McBitchin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say what he used to say to me is the McSnitch because he didn't say McBitchin to me.
Back then. Now at 20, he'd have no problem. 21, he'd have no problem saying that.
Okay, so what it is, if you guys are out there, if you've got a teenager that you really want to impress, here's what you do. You order a double cheeseburger and a spicy chicken.
McDouble. It's a McChicken and a McDouble.
Did I say double cheese? What did I say? Okay, McDouble. Yeah. Sorry.
Just tell them at the counter you want a McBitchin.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah. They know.
So then you open the double cheeseburger. What did you call it?
Double.
See, I do not go there. I do not order this. You open the McDouble.
Heidi gets on the YouTube.
And then, and then you put the entire spicy chicken on top. And then you put the bun back on. So count it. 4 buns.
Yes.
4 halves of buns. 2 buns. And then you smash it down a little bit and you just all at once. Apparently it's really good. I have not done it.
According to the American Heart Foundation, it's not suggested, but but for young people, it's amazing.
So anyway, that is.
So we'll just do the what would Cory eat this week diet.
Right. Grilled cheese at midnight. McBitchin for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
So anyway, that you mentioned actually the other thing that I wanted to say is really different for me, and that's I loved to solve a problem right now. We're not going to end this conversation until we have an outcome and a punishment has been delivered and a sentence has been given and an ultimatum has been made. I was just all about kind of like this right now type of a person. And this goes real hand in hand in with the slow down thing. But giving a situation and a person time and space is so hard for moms to do. I can say from...
Because you don't have time and every space is dirty. So
and you just want everybody on your time frame and in your bubble. Like we want it.
Things will go easier that way.
Inside, we want to wrap it. We want to hold it. We want to be in control of it. you told me an important thing that I did not believe, refused to believe, and I have come around to the fact that moms and dads don't need to know everything. Now, this doesn't, obviously, there's going to be things that we need to know what happened, and the truth will come out, whatever, but so helpful for a relationship, for, I'm just going to say the word processing, to allow some time and some space to happen. That obviously requires a little bit of the slowdown, but it requires like reversing, like just step right out and kind of give them a chance to figure some stuff out. This is really hard for me, because I just like, I see a problem, I go in, I solve it, and then we get out.
Well, and it's a problem for a lot of people that have a similar brain to yours, where they already take a little bit of information and at a very high speed they process it. Well,
which means there's only one option.
The problem with that is that when there's a lot of information and there's a lot of things happening, it's kind of like when you rev your car, like you hit the gas, but you got to pull off the gas. Like you can't just hold the, just, it's going to go in the red. The RPM's like, you got to shift gears. You just can't keep it in one gear. And so that's a challenge a lot of times, is that you want to fix so much. You want to do so much. But what that doesn't allow is it doesn't allow that person to figure out how to fix things themselves. It creates a sense of urgency that's on your timeline, not theirs. And that's something I've witnessed you go through, because getting stuff done was kind of like a badge of armor for you. It's like, I get stuff done. Even if it's last hour, last minute, we stay up all night, we just get it done. Doesn't matter how we get it done, we just get it done.
Done is so important to me.
Yeah, just finish, put a period on it, wrap it up, tying the bow, putting it down, it's done. The challenge with teenagers and their development, just when one development you think is done, another one begins. So there's always something else to work on. So the work's never really complete. And I tip my hat to you, because that letting go and giving them space to figure out things on their own. Information overload is a really big problem we have in our society right now. We can't even trust what news is real, what isn't real, because a great example, you look at the elections, like if you look at 2 different news stations during the elections, it was a joke. It's like, what the heck is really going on? And then with clickbait and internet, there's so much information. It's too much information. Well, with too much information and a brain like yours, that's not necessarily a good combination, because now your brain's working overtime to compare every possible outcome to other outcomes on decisions that your son has to make that you can't even make.
Exactly.
And these, that may sound confusing, just rewind it, actually will make sense. But that's what's happening. You're doing too much of the work. And for you to give them space to kind of catch up and get their own momentum and catch their own wave, that is very hard to do. And you can't do it when you're freaking out all the time, because no one will take you serious.
Which is why I have the hat.
You have the hat on. But parents, you don't get street cred with your kids of when, the boy who cried wolf. What about the parent who cried wolf? Right. The parent who cried wolf is the parent who freaks out at octave 10 or level 10, whatever that is, for every single thing in the household all day long. Then before you know it, you're the parent who cried wolf.
Exactly. I think I'm going to underscore that bullet point with making the statement of, I know you can figure this out.
Boom.
That lie is really hard for me to say. I say it's a lie because I don't usually think. I usually think, oh, they need me to figure everything out. Well, it is a lie.
See, did we talk about this when she wasn't here that one time with us? It is a lie, but it's called a true lie. It's a true lie.
Oh, a true lie.
So it's true and a lie.
I see it. A lie.
Exactly. It's true lie. It's like, you may blow this, and I'm going to tell you that you'll figure it out.
I think that there's a lot of parents that would probably also agree that we highly doubt their ability to figure it out and trust that they need us to figure it out. And so,
you remember being the age of your kids. So you know now for a fact When you're that age, you're an idiot. When you're that age, you're not smart enough to know you're stupid.
Well, exactly.
Like you haven't learned enough life to go, oh, that was stupid. And when you're talking about, our kids shouldn't know everything, there is a bonfire all across the United States right now. Someone's camping out, someone's on the beach, and adults are telling stories of all the stuff that their parents didn't know about them. Their parents sitting there going, so that's what happened to that tractor that one time. We're like, so the car really didn't get stolen? No, Mom, that was me and Billy down the street, joyriding it. Every bonfire in the country, in the world, there's adults talking about things they did without their parents knowing. And those are the best stories. But there's kids listening. And they're saying, wait a second. How come there was no Navy SEAL parent when you were a kid? How come you had all this freedom? And that's a tough one to explain to young people. There are some things about the old school that were good. There was more disconnect because of lack of digital communication. When our kids said they're going to the movie theater, we just had to hope and pray that they went and came home. Right? Like we didn't, if they walked there, we didn't know. Like it was just, we somehow survived.
Tracking them.
But since no one's going to go to giving away their cell phone, what you and a lot of our listeners and just a lot of just good parents that have figured this out on their own, you're realizing that the space doesn't just help your child grow. It helps your emotional maturity grow so you can see your child as an adult.
Exactly.
You need time to see them not as your little baby. You need time to see them as the person that they're capable of becoming versus being scared to death that they're going to fall short of the person you want them to become.
And there will be time to help them. There will be time. You give them some time, you'll still be able to help them. You mentioned another word, which is on my list of the ways that I have changed. And I've mentioned this a few times on the podcast that really I had a problem with Cory and I had tried all of my methods and they didn't work. And so I brought him to you to fix him. And that's really how I viewed therapy. It's how I viewed, I was raised in the white flag. I was like, I don't know what to do. And he needed help. I didn't need help. So the big change, and I think that this is the essence of this podcast, I hope, is that you cannot fix others. You can only fix yourself. And I know we've talked about that a lot, but I cannot overemphasize that if you're mad, if something's happening and you're upset, the very first step of that is not to look for someone to blame. It's to look on how you can take responsibility and how you can adapt yourself to err on the side of the relationship, and I mean, this whole entire podcast has been me admitting my weaknesses and my failures and my shortcomings and my misunderstandings. And the reality is I think that a lot of you can probably relate to that. 100%. The biggest difference between the Heidi 4 years ago and the Heidi now is that I realized that I needed work on myself. I needed to adapt. I needed to adjust. I needed to learn. I couldn't just, as you would say, copy and paste what my mom had done. I couldn't just wing it. My intuition, not working. I actually needed to learn.
Yes, this is why she's so passionate about our workshops. When we talk about the workshop, in every workshop, if you've ever come to our workshop, there's at least 2 or 3 times where Heidi stops, goes into student mode, opens up her thing. Hold on a second. Like, I never understood that. Now, Dave, you've been trying to tell me this for 3 years. I'm like, Heidi, we're actually in the middle of teaching people this. Like, play it cool, act like you knew it the whole entire time. Because that's your biggest, I think that is your one thing, is that you put this as a goal. You intentionally are saying, listen, I can't bring my son back to life, but I sure as hell am not going to be the same parent I was then. I've got to be better. I'm going to be better. And that's the best thing I could do from this, is make sure that my kids don't have to have the same reactions and me flipping out, freaking out like I did earlier as a mom. And that was something that, if I were to say your biggest thing is that you put that, for some reason you put that as your number one to do on the to-do list, and these past 4 years, everything you've been doing is trying to be that parent, because your job's not done. You don't get to sit back and feel bad for yourself every day as an old retirement person at the retirement home, and watch the train go by every day, watch the trees grow, right? Like, you are a parent in the middle of it. Like, you're right in the middle. You're not at the end. Right. And so for you to say, I'm not going to let this define me. I was the woman who lost her son to suicide. I was the woman who lost her son to suicide. And I'm the woman who figured out what a mother can do to make sure she never has to lose another child again.
And maybe, just maybe, that there was other moms out there feeling as helpless, hopeless, confused, lost, disconnected as I was. Because I was scared.
And hopefully they don't have to lose their son before they get this call, before they get this notification. That they need to step their game up. And this is no criticism. All you parents out there are feeling that you're doing a bad job. If you just got back from the hospital right now because your child attempted suicide, or if your child has actually, because I know some of our listeners had kids pass away from suicide. We're not saying that you were the reason why they died. We're not saying that you could have prevented it with all this information, but we're saying with this information, the things that Heidi's learned, she's sharing with you, following a woman like her and her lead, taking the information we're sharing, what it gives you a better chance. Everybody wants the odds in their favor. Everyone. If someone says you eat McDonald's off the dollar menu every single day for the next 5 years, you're probably going to die of a heart attack. But if you don't eat it, you won't. I'm going to take my odds not eating it I don't think we're eating McDonald's as a sponsor anytime soon. But if they hear the second half of the podcast.
Hey, we talked about the McBitchin'.
I know, but do you get what I'm saying, though?
Totally.
It's just...
I think that I can't go back in time. There's no way for me to know, like, okay, I could have saved Cory. I could have changed this if I would have changed all these things about myself. But we have to, like, there has to be a necessity. It has to, I didn't think anything was wrong with me.
So there has to be a mirror, is what you're saying?
There has to be some
reflection.
Yeah, some reflection. And I will boldly say, I don't think there's anyone out there that doesn't need to do some of that fixing inside them. I don't think we ever get done fixing ourselves. Or
well, as soon as we think we've learned everything, we haven't learned anything. As soon as we think we know everything, we haven't learned anything.
Right, there you go. There it goes. So that's a big difference between now and 4 years ago. We kind of mentioned this a little bit when Connor came in and says, let it out. And when I also said, I don't want anybody to don't talk about, I don't care if you want to kill yourself, don't talk about it. Or, whatever. Like your
old response was shut it down.
Yes.
It's inappropriate conversation. We don't talk about things like that.
And honestly, this is a buzzword. I think that this has changed a lot in our world in the last 4 years. This concept of feeling your feelings. Okay. And maybe it's the people that I follow. I don't know. I'd love to hear this from you as listeners. It's never really been a discussion how important it is to just feel. To just feel your feelings. And we kind of, I think in the past, there's been like labels of, those are bad feelings and these are good feelings. And you don't want to have bad feelings, so don't do these things, or don't, if you've got bad feelings, you did something wrong. and you want to have good feelings, so only behave in this way, or if you behaved in this way and you still had bad feelings, or what, like our feelings. My opinion was that I only wanted to have good feelings, and I only wanted people to have good feelings. I only wanted my kids to have good feelings, and I just wanted everybody to have good feelings all the time. Good meaning happy, optimistic, energized. So a big concept for me, and I appreciate this about the world, is that this conversation is, just because you are having a negative or a sad feeling, that doesn't mean it's a bad feeling. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have it. It doesn't mean you should run for it, hide from it. If you're having a feeling, we should probably just feel it. I was explaining actually to a friend, and then also we chatted about this for a second before the podcast, but my method, particularly this week, this situation, is for me to plan so many things around this day and tomorrow, because Cory actually went into the hospital on the 9th and then was declared dead on the 10th. And so it's kind of this weird 2-day experience. And I've tried to pack so many things around this, like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to go to the beach, and we're not going to. I just wanted to escape the feelings. I didn't want to have to look at anybody in the eye on this day. I wanted to escape my feelings. This year, because of certain circumstances, different circumstances, I wound up with no escape, with no trip to the beach, with no full day of activities one after another, no grocery plan that I got to get to 5 different stores,
There's no drill team to make a last minute costume change or something.
No, and I think that's why I sat in the bathroom last night crying, is because I had.
It caught up to me. It's like you sat there like, okay, I guess now I can say I could outrun it for 4 years, but not much longer. It caught you. It got you.
Yeah, I just had to feel it. The amazing thing about feeling it, and I'm still in this process. I'm still in this place, and I still have tomorrow and tonight, but I'm just feeling it. I'm talking about it with my kids. I've talked about it to my kids. I've talked about it with friends that my kids are overhearing it. And maybe when we feel it and we know what it feels like, then maybe it's not as scary.
Let me share a thought. I think this is fascinating because what you're saying, I couldn't agree with more, because I've been watching you go through it. But also, I think with the more complex our lives become, human beings, we're pretty nostalgic. And we want to be connected. We want to stay connected to things that are simple, when life was simple. And I think that's why we connect with such simple, basic things as memories. But they leave a memory that has an emotion connected to it. It call it emotional memory. And so, like, you see a pair of Vans shoes. Could you not think of your son whenever you saw a pair of Vans shoes? You see a wolf of any sorts. Could you not think of your son? So when I say human beings are nostalgic, like, we long for the simple things of life. And I think it's interesting. This is what I think is fascinating, is that right now in social media, all the biggest buzzwords and all the biggest quotes and inspirational things that people are focusing on are things like feel your feelings, be present, speak truth, safe places. It seems so ridiculously simple, But if you look at our problems in our society, and generally speaking, our lives have become so complex that what's the nature and the human social fabric of us as people is just simple moments and connections. So as our social media, as our online personas, all these things become very complex, we actually have to go back to the old basic ways of just remembering to not go so fast that you don't even know why you're even going. Ask yourself questions. Think about different solutions. Talk about feelings while you have them instead of burying them in. This is the freest we've ever been as people to express ourselves, and social media is blown up because of it. But this is also a new place. It's almost like it's foreign because we've been lost in this digital, mess of life, and then the expectations of parents and families. Nowadays, you can't just have your kids play sports. They got to go to camps. You got to have private trainings with them. It's like every kid at 10 years old is training to be a pro. It's like every bit of our life is becoming more demanding, more demanding, more demanding. That's why we want it so simple. And that's why we need reminders of human basic things that we've gotten away from. I truly think that human beings in our fabric know that we've stretched ourselves too thin and we need to come back. We need to come back to who we really are. And so I think it's so cool when you say things, and when you guys are listening to Heidi talk about things like, just for me to allow myself to feel that. We hear it on social media so much, but when you explain it like that, Heidi, it makes so much more sense because you're not saying feel your feels, which is a fun thing to say. You're saying, no, if you don't feel or acknowledge that you have feelings, then those feelings get dismissed. And when your feelings get dismissed, they feel the same way when you get dismissed. They get pissed, they get revengeful, they get angry, and they start stirring the pot in the background. But if we just take a moment and say, hey, this sucks. When people say live your truth, sometimes your truth is that you sucked that day and you didn't do what you thought, and you got to own it. You got to look in that mirror that Heidi talked about, and you got to say, listen, I didn't do what I want to do today. Tomorrow, I got to do better. You continually have to push yourself, and the truth isn't always pretty. Our feelings are not always the ones, like you said, that you want to have. So if anything, this experience that you're sharing right now, what I took from this, Heidi, is something very, very basic and simple. If you want to go through the most horrible, heart-wrenching times of your life, or just any difficult time in your life, you first got to know how you feel about that time in your life. Sort out where you're at. Have realistic expectations of how you should be handling, like in your case, your son dying. Well, you handled it like any mom would handle it. You freaked out. You lost your mind. You had heart-wrenching pain and agony. And then 4 years later, you now have learned from it because you did the work. And the work for you was slow it down, keep it simple because the pain is too complex.
And it's a big difference for me.
Huge difference.
It's a big difference. I think the very last thing that I want to mention, and I just, we talk about it again, and this is something that's out there a lot. It certainly wasn't there 4 years ago. It is there now. And you guys have heard me say this, but I think that it bears repeating. Connection.
Is there levels to connection?
There's levels to connection.
Is there expiration dates? If you have a connection with your kid a year ago, does that mean you automatically are going to have one with them today?
Especially not if they went from being a 4-year-old to being a 14-year-old.
Right.
In that 1 year.
Yep.
I think, so I read an article just this week, and it was sort of it was a great article, but it was also like kind of a stinger. It was kind of a buzzer, and it just said the definition of suicide is a lack of connection. It's somebody who feels a disconnection from everybody and everything. And you guys, that's hard for me to think about my child being in that place.
That he could fall in that category of not having a strong enough connection to want to keep him alive. And continue. I didn't want to.
Well, there's no Like we have those connections where I do your laundry and you don't talk back, or, I fold, you put them away, or I make dinner, you clear off your plate. We have connections. Obviously, we know that we have connections to the loved ones in our lives. Those surfacey connections or obligatory connections are essential to our life. But the things that I've just mentioned to you, slowing down, giving space, working on yourself, managing your expectations, allowing there to be real feelings. These are all those kind of like levels of connection, adding connection, real connection. Connection is essential. It is the most essential thing. And if that means, it means putting down your phone, it means staying up a little bit later, it means listening without lecturing, all these things.
It means not lying and saying you're busy and you can't play just because you're tired and you don't feel like it sometimes. Because I know we all do that as parents. I've done I got this thing I got to do.
It means pushing through and having a dance party. It means sometimes having s'mores for dinner. It means
you're putting an investment
real
into an account that is going to pay dividends in the future.
It means being real with your children. It means putting the relationship first. We talk about that a lot. I didn't understand. I didn't understand connection. I think it's something that I know if Cory was sitting here, he would, if we could have that interview from the other side, if we had that correspondent in heaven, I'm sure Cory would not want me to feel guilty. He would not. He would testify that he knew he was loved. I don't think that was the problem. He didn't think that I didn't love him.
He'd be like, "Mom, this isn't your fault. Come on." He'd be like, he'd dismiss it. Like, that's a joke.
Would.
Yeah, I know.
And I know
because I had that last conversation with him. I was there when he said the things that he said to you. He was not a young man that didn't love his mom.
No.
He was a young man that felt like he was a disappointment to the world. Right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, it wasn't specific to you or to Dad. It was just to everybody. Felt like he was a disappointment at that moment, at least.
And so I think, while again, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and we could really go down the question place, and that's not what this is about. What I hope this is about is helping to point out changes that have been made in my life, and changes that I know that if you, wherever you are on the journey, wherever you are, whatever age your children are, whether they're 4 or they're 40, it is not too late to start really focusing on the essence of that connection. And every family, every dynamic is going to be different, is going to be struggling with something different, but every family and every relationship is going to be struggling something. And so let's not pretend like those things aren't there. Let's not pretend like they don't need to be addressed and dealt with, and the I mean, I said that connection was the last thing, and we've already mentioned the don't freaking out, but I'm not perfect at not freaking out, but it's a big change. I haven't stabbed any balls in the last 4 years.
You're 4 years ball stabbing free. We'll get you a token. You're like a 4-year token.
Yes. And
well, all joking aside, that's a big part of what you learn from your son's passing. Why freak out? Like there's nothing. It's It's not even real. It's a false flag. You don't care that much that you want to hurt your kid. Right. You don't want to make them feel bad. It's like, at the end of the day, now with all your life experience, it's like, dirty towel, this and that. Those are nuisances. Those are irritating, but you can laugh about those things now. Those are the things that are just, you can brush off your shoulder and keep on going.
I pulled out my scrapbooks this morning, looking back at my pictures, reading the stories. And I really hate it. I really hate that he's gone. I look at my kids together and he's just missing. The hole has not gotten any smaller. I still just crave his big bear hugs. That kid gave the best hugs. But wherever he is watching me from, I, number one, don't want to add to his pain. I want him to see the partnership that we have. I want to honor him and show him and you, listeners, that we can be better. And that it's not rocket science, but it doesn't come natural.
Oh yeah.
And I think that I thought that, you have a child and automatically you're a mother. So boom. There you go. You
listen.
Yeah, you should know what to do. And so we're
not gazelles. Our kids aren't born and start like walking and feeding themselves at the moment. So that'd be easier.
They're helpless.
Yeah, they're helpless.
They're helpless. I love being a mom. I'm a better mom. There's a song by Coldplay. It's called "I Will Fix You," and it makes me cry because it's like, and the tears are streaming down your face. Like, it's terrible. It's a terrible song. Don't listen to it when you're sad. But it says, "Lights will guide." And we gotta shine the light on this. The more light, the more we talk about it, the more conversations we have, the more information that we share. That's how we're gonna beat this.
Well, I can say personally, thank you, Cory Swap. Changed my life, man. That young man single-handedly changed my life. It's just true. It's not good. It's not bad. But, with his story and everything that happened, put me with you. It put me in different directions. It gave me the courage because I was the guy who never lost anyone. And so I look like great. Well, then once I become the guy who lost someone, now I was on the other side of the fence with people that had lost people close to them, specifically like someone that I was helping. And it questioned my career. Everything was in question because that was the first time I experienced something like that. But I can honestly say thank you because outside of that experience, it gave me the courage. It gave me that attitude of like, I know I'm helping people with this information. Why am I so scared to talk about it publicly? Like for some reason, I felt if I said these things out loud or tried to be a motivational speaker or write a book, that I was in some weird way selling out all the people. Like I couldn't like be the person in the public persona to help people and still be on the street and really be a man of the people. I didn't know I could do both, but once he had passed and our conversations and a lot of convincing by you, like, let's talk about this. Like, I've never heard of this stuff. Maybe it is fresh stuff. And then the more we start going, other people start saying, yeah, I didn't hear about this stuff either. I just knew it worked with my clients. And so Cory gave me the courage. Your guys' story with Cory gave me the extra motivation and boost to get over my own fears, because after going through that with you and your family, it's like, well, what am I scared of? Nothing happened to me. Quit being a pansy, and just if people don't like your stuff, they don't like it, but don't not share it. So thank you, Cory. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, your whole entire family, all your kids, for just trusting me and still letting me be a part of your guys' family. Because when it was all said and done, as you know, wasn't sure how you guys would feel about me. And I'm glad that you guys took a moment to have feelings about me and then shared the ones that were polite to share. Because I know you guys are like, what were they really talking about? I know, but it really meant a lot to me that you guys, they just brought us closer. It really does, especially with your kids too. I mean, I love those kids so much. So, I mean, you and Eric, you're all right, but your kids, I mean, my heart's really with the kids, right?
There's still hope for them.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Your ship sailed already, the two of you guys. To Valhalla or whatever, because you guys are like Viking blood or something. I imagine you guys blonde-haired blood, the Aryan race over here.
Well, there's a woman who sent me a message today, and
by the way, Cory said it was getting a little too serious, so we had to
yeah.
I just started talking some trash, a
real.
little too. He's like, "Come on, man, make a joke, a bad one, anything."
It makes me happy. I got a message today, even from a mom who said, I was able to have a tough conversation with my kids because of your story. And, wherever Cory is looking down, he loved people. He loved to help people. And I know that his stamp of approval is on this podcast, and I know it's on what we're doing. And, yeah, I'm glad for that.
So am I.
So thank you guys. If you're still listening, I don't even know how long we've been talking. 7 hours.
You must have had a lot of housework to do if you're still listening, or a long bike ride.
Hour and a half. Yep.
There you go. So it was either the shortest or the longest. So knowing us, it makes sense. It was the longest.
Oh, so thanks for showing up. If you're a listener, you knew this was.
Yeah, and if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you can get to see the Shiz show, not just hear it. The visual is just so much more entertaining, but not in our favor.
I should just really quick. This is.
Oh yeah, show that.
This is.
See on YouTube. You
this
can
is what
see
I made
cool
today.
Stencil.
This is what I like to take stuff. I like to take special grave markers. And so the YouTube folks can see this. This is
What does it say though?
It says Cory Paul Swap, loved, missed, and remembered. And there's a wolf howling. And so I don't like to go to the cemetery empty-handed.
Well, I think it looks beautiful, and for those of you people who can see it, it looks beautiful too. Yeah. Well, Heidi, take us home.
All right, you guys.
Take us home. Take us to the bridge.
You guys, thanks always. Thanks for coming, for listening, for sharing, for commenting, for your messages, for your DMs, for your prayers and your encouragement. Yeah. But thank you mostly for helping us to light the fight.